up, boys? All right, boys, let's rise. Face the east. God on the left, two on the right. Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
Islam. All right. Sorry.
No mistakes. There.
Prophet warns all Muslim governors ordered to read proclamation at every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical, agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom. Actually, let's do this right now. We're just gonna, if anybody has any input on any sections, just throw those out. That's what you get from each paragraph. So we'll start again. Prophet warns all Muslims, governors ordered to read proclamation at every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical, agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. So any mundane or metaphysical lessons in that first chapter, that first paragraph. We're going to throw.
Well, the concept of flashing cards in our situation today makes it a little different. That we're crushing to present, our name, our some other party.
Yeah.
Really doesn't have the right to ask, right? But in their time, I'm not sure whether it was the crushing was different.
Right. It might not have been an issue. So you might not even have to pull your card out. And pulling it out is, that's a violation of something because you shouldn't even have to. Pull it up. Anybody else?
Might be context as well. Like how you present. You might have to specify that. They don't flash it. Right? Yeah.
Well, vanity.
Yeah, I think that in a different context.
Yeah.
There's a way to
present it. Yeah.
I'm watching like what? No?
Yeah. The energy behind flashing it. Yeah.
Flashing it saying that you know humility, the whole thing is about.
Right. You had some more?
Just what I take from it, this is more about giving you on the mundane plane the understanding that you were national and that it wasn't about proving anything to anyone else. It's really about your own awareness of who you were. That's what it was. It had nothing to do with the European. And the very fact that you were flashing would then be taking away what it was meant for. You're bringing it down to a mundane level to prove to someone who wasn't on your level something. That's how I see it. It was really for yourself.
Anybody else? Right. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. That kind of speaks for itself. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds.
I could see that again from the prospect that if you were looking to monetize or take something from this, from the perspective that that you are seeing this now as a way to make money. That's how I see it on the spiritual side, that you would get your just desert.
Allah has laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in the prophet, they should turn in their carding button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and all true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. Confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their carding button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you.
Well, I guess if you don't want to be a part of the nation as it stands, like basically self-governing, you have to self-govern yourself. If you don't want to do that, then yeah, then this is not what you should be doing. So that's what's required.
Yeah.
So you have to basically, as I'm saying, you are taking those actions, becoming a more, or being more straight back to wherever you were before.
Right. Yeah. This is the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. Omar might have something for this one. This is a holy movement, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out a divine plea to all in protecting their prophet and the temple.
And I've been talking to this really, these classes that we have every Sunday are really classes. And that this is for people who still need to prove or need some kind of proof that this is something real. Whereas the ones who have sort of graduated to grade 1, 2, and 3 should know that the work is out there. And it's really what's standing up for your nationality. And stop looking for some kind of profit from the European through this. It's really important about getting and doing the work for yourself and for your children and for your family, and then everything will change.
This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The second letter to be proclaimed in every meeting. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens. They are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So today we're just going to go through some chapters in the Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood. The mysteries so as Moors, we have two holy books. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple and the Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood. These books are always supposed to be presented as one book. So we talked about on the Searching for More class with Dr. Lino Bay on Thursday. We were talking about the different things that happened after Noble Drew Ali passed, and different organizations that said they're gonna do their own thing instead of sticking with the program or whatever. So one of the things that the infiltrators did was separate these two books. And they made the Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood the Mysteries of Attic Chamber book. And then the Holy Quran of the MSTA would be the regular book for everybody else to have. So when you read the Holy Quran, you get lessons out of that. There's lessons of Yahshua in adulthood that's not in this, unless you have this to go with this. So having just the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and this is more so for Moorish Science Temple of America people, that they would be limited in their study if they started studying this. Because both of these, or chapters of both of these, is the Aquarian Gospel. Which again, you know, when Noble Drew Ali made the statement about chasing after the gods of Europe, of who we knew nothing is why we fell. It's things like this, like the Aquarian Gospel would be the European version of this. For them to get their spiritual enlightenment out. They wouldn't do these together like this, because in this, there's selected lessons that are directly for Moors only, that have nothing to do with anybody else. So by having these two books together, and these two books being made up of this book, which we know came out of the Akashic Records, this is information that's been transferred down the ages through the likes of prophets and seers and messiahs and whatever. But individually culminating all this for us is to have the Aquarian gospel broken up, things in this that we don't need or that make reference to that concept of the European gods that we don't really need to deal with are excluded. So when you take this and these two, there's certain chapters that are going to match up, and then there's certain chapters that have nothing, that you're not going to find a relationship. Right? And those are the ones that you will probably put in directly for a moment. So we're going to be going into Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood, which was supposed to be an Adam Chamber book after the sellout of Noble Jawali, so that only the people in the attic, which is where the sellout would have took place, because it wouldn't have been general membership that sold out. It's always going to be the leadership or people who were around the leadership. So when they limited this information, which is relative to this book, in the attic chamber, it became something that the people themselves wouldn't even want anything to do with. Because their mindset of it is that, oh, well, they're not ready yet, and when they get ready, then they can get the next whatever from whoever is claiming to be the head. But if that's the case with regard to information, then you're going to be able to be controlled. Which is the whole point of them bringing in the sellout, because the sellout was to control people to make them be passive with this information. For them to take the lessons in the Holy Quran and only look at it as some religious idea because they came into this door, so this religious thing applies to them. But the reality is that the lessons are not just a religious nature, but more so a spiritual nature, right? It's really from a spiritual perspective, right? Peace, man. And so we're just going to go through some of the chapters. Oh yeah, sorry. We're just going to go through some chapters of the Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood. And again, get your input on what is vibrating in you from receiving these particular lessons, right? Because you also have to remember that, the purpose of Noble Jawali presenting the information was for us to take it and be able to use it. It wasn't necessarily just for us to take it and retain it, but then nothing happens with it. So all the different levels that you'll hear about, whether it's the physical, the spiritual, the metaphysical, the mental, all of it applies to something relative to our evolution or returning into being our true selves. Chapter 1, Life and Works of Yahshua in Egypt and India. And Yahshua came to Egypt land, and all was well. He tarried not upon the coast. He went at once to Zon, home of Elihu and Salome, who 25 years before had taught his mother in their sacred school. And there was joy when met these three. When last the son of Mary saw these sacred groves, he was abased. And now a man had grown strong by buffeting of every kind, a teacher who had stirred the multitudes in many lands. And Yahshua told the aged teachers about his life, about his journeying in foreign lands, about the meetings with masters, and about his kind of receptions by the multitudes. Elihu and Salome hears this story with delight. They filled up their eyes to heaven and said, Our Father Allah, let now thy servants go in peace, for we have seen the glory of the Lord, and we have talked with him, the messenger of love, and of the covenant of peace on earth and men, or on earth goodwill to men. Through him I shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Through him Emmanuel. And Yahshua stayed in Zon many days. And then he went forth into the city of the sun, the men called Heliopolis. He sought admission to the temple of the sacred Brotherhood. The council of the Brotherhood convened, and Yahshua stood before the Hierophant. He answered all questions and that were asked with clearness and with power. The Hierophant exclaimed, Rabboni of the rabbinate, why come you here? Your wisdom is the wisdom of the gods. Why seek for wisdom in the halls of men? And Yahshua said, in every way of earth life I would walk. In every hall of learning I would sit. The height that any man has gained, these I would gain. What any man has suffered I would meet, that I may know the griefs and disappointments and sore temptations of my brother man, that I may know just how to succor with those in need. I pray you, brothers, let me into the dismal crypts. I would pass the hardest of your tests. The master said, take then the vow of secret brotherhood. And Yahshua took the vow of secret brotherhood. Again the master spoke. He said, the greatest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths, and you shall reach the greatest depths. The guide then led the way, and in the fountain Yahshua bathed. And when he had been clothed in proper garb, he stood again before the Hierophant. If any verses need rereading, just let me know and we'll go. Peace, bro. You good?
Yeah.
How's this? Like your beats again this week. Going in.
Chief, what chapter is that in?
Chapter 1. So one of the things that we take out in verse 11, the Hierophant exclaimed, Rabboni of the rabbinate, why come you here? Your wisdom is the wisdom of the gods. Why seek for wisdom in the halls of men? And Yahshua said, in every way of earth life I would walk. In every hall of learning I would sit. The height that any man has gained, these I would gain. So we have as far as our timeline, when we went to Chicago in 2008, just speaking relative to this verse 11 and 12, this is almost the idea that they took with us, that you have to want the wisdom of the gods, because we were coming in with everything else. Only thing we were missing was one more Juanita. But all the other masters and whoever, every individual that was in the temple that we were in, was from one of those schools, as far as like the leadership in that temple. So one individual was from the Nuapian school. Somebody else was NOI, went through all the ranks of NOI. Somebody was Garviet. Somebody was More Science Temple from 1930s or whatever. They just, it was just part of their family. Some people were in the Kemetic school. So when we had our closed door meeting with them to see how prepared we are to take on this role of, the Moorish movement, this whole new thing or whatever, they're going on and stuff, and we're like, like, well, it's only natural that we give you all the keys to this. If you're coming with all that stuff that you got, then you're prepared. You can now go through the portal right there, and then you're going to end up in the other room. Start doing things in the manner of which you were meant to do it, even before you went through the portal, because you realize that this is constant growth. This is constant raising up into a higher existence, higher consciousness all the time. As soon as there's stagnancy, you know that you're limited in expanding. It's time to get rid of stuff. Something's clogging you up. If you're not able to get to those next levels of spiritual enlightenment, right? It might be as small as that cupboard at the house that you never opened in the past 4 months, 5 months, or whatever. Open that, get rid of some of that stuff. Because all these physical stuff, though physical, they got energy in them too. Right? And sometimes, like we say with crystals, you lose crystals because you don't need them anymore. You know what I mean? You lose stuff because it served its purpose. You don't need it. Now it's somebody else's turn to get out what it is that you got. So Yahshua said, in every way of life, I would walk. In every hall of learning, I would sit. The height that any man has gained, these I would gain. We went through all the different schools of thought. To get to this one, go through the portal and realize that we didn't get told anything yet. We thought we had something. We thought we learned something. But now we're finding about nationality and birthrights. This is something totally different than where it is that we even thought that we were going to go with getting all this information and reading and studying and doing all this thing. What any man has suffered, I would meet, that I may know the griefs and disappointments and sore temptations of my brother man, that I may know just how to succor with those in need. So like we were talking about, yesterday, I was dealing with it more yesterday. And we're talking about, no matter what it is that we're going through, and you think your stuff is so bad and you're not going to get out of this, remember that individual with the 100 times worse stuff than you. When you see an individual that's attained whatever it is that is beneficial to you, look past what they got. What they got is nothing compared to what it could be for you. What they got could be the most minimal aspect that it is for you. But until the individual realizes for themselves, right, just like Yahshua, there's no choosing when you want to learn. Learning just happens all the time if you're open to being taught. And if you're open to anything teaching you, doesn't have to be, like being a recovered prayer. A squirrel running across the tree will teach you something. Everything there's somewhere to learn. Right? Anybody else have any additions? Chapter 1, Life and Works of Yahshua in Egypt, or need me to read any other
his mother was trained for 20 years or 25 years prior to him knowing. I was incorrect.
Yeah. When last the son of Mary saw these sacred groves, and Yahshua came to Egypt land, and all was well. He tarried not upon the coast. He went at once to Zon, home of Elihu and Salome, who 5 and 20 years before had taught his mother in their sacred school. Okay. And then
I think
5 and 20 years. Good.
that's the 5 and the 2 that I think they're trying to give it to you in the code reference.
Right.
So that you know that that's
That's the lesson.
And then I think when he makes reference to the city beyond the sun, he's making reference to the spiritual side of things and to the fact that, and this is what all of these holy books are telling you about, that our existence here in the physical is only the first step. And that when you read on within the other chapters, all of us here in the flesh think about death as being the end of it. And death is really the beginning.
The beginning.
And then they're also trying to tell you that once we give that concept up, we are free. That is really the essence of these books. To let you know that it's beyond this. And once that happens, you let go of all the physical things. That is the problem for all of us. But it's impossible for us to give up the physical stuff. Or has been impossible. And it's the masters who are able to transcend the physical to the spiritual and back again. And so the reality is through the Son, the S-U-N, S-O-N.
And Yahshua stayed in Zon many days, and then he went forth unto the city of the sun, that men call Heliopolis, and sought admission into the temple of the sacred Brotherhood. Anybody else? Chapter 2. Life of works of Yahshua in Joseph's home at the age of 7 years. And then there's the 5 and 2 again. Oh yeah, remember? You heard about the tape? The tape, the white tape? Yeah, fridge. Life works of Yahshua in Joseph's home at the age of 7 years. The home of Joseph was on Marmion Way in Nazareth. Here Mary taught her son the lessons of Elihu and Salome. And Yahshua greatly loved the Vedic hymns and the Avesta. But he would never, ever tell a so-called Christian or whatever all the schools of thought that Yahshua was in. If somebody has the dictionary over there, you can just look up Vedic. And see if Avesta is in there too. But more than all, he loved the Psalms of David and the pungent words of Solomon. The Jewish books of prophecy were his delight. The Jewish books of prophecy were his delight. And when he reached his 7th year, 5 and 2 again, so we had the chapter 2, 7, we had the 25 years, we had the 7 for the 7 years, and then now So still relative to his 7th year. When he reached his 7th year, he needed not the books to read, for he had fixed in memory every word. By 7. You got beat it there? Yeah.
Often related to the Vedas, the language in which they are written, or Hindu history and culture, approximately between 500 BC. That's all I can read there.
Right. Is Avesta in there? No. So when you go into the Hindu history, they're talking about, they have Yahshua's body. Yahshua's with them. Forget any of these Europeans out here talking about they know where his body is or whatever, they have it or whatever. We didn't have the body. So this was the last place that he came to learn before, because all that crucifixion and all that stuff is not some way he died. He lived to be old, body taken off. That's just part of the myth that they have to create in order to have this quote unquote religious stuff for people to follow and then whatever, and not tell them that the SON that they're talking about in there is the SUN in the sky. And then that whole thing is a metaphysical journey. Nothing to do with physical beings. Right? Augusta.
This looks like Persian. The book of the sacred writings of Zoroastrianism. Thank you. And Avestan is an ancient Iranian language in which the sacred books of Zoroastrianism were written, and it also relates you to see Indo-European languages. Once again, that puts you back to the same Hindu family. Yeah.
All right. Put you back to the same idea. Right? That there's many different schools of thought, and we have to recognize that the masters didn't pick and choose what they want to learn. They tried to take in as much of everything that they could. Again, which goes back to Noble Ali and the study lesson. That after you finish all this studying, you're going to have to study yourself after that. And then when you study yourself, you're going to be brought up into so much more stuff to learn again. Right? Joachim and his wife, grandparents of Yahshua, made a feast in honor of the child, and all their near kin were guests. And Yahshua stood before these guests and said, I had a dream, and in my dream I stood before the sea upon a sandy beach. The waves upon the sea were high. A storm was raging on the deep. Someone above gave me a wand. I took the wand and touched the sands, and every grain of sand became a living thing. The beach was all a mass of beauty and song. I touched the waters at my feet, and they were changed to trees and flowers and singing birds, and everything was praising Allah. And someone spoke. I did not see the one who spoke. I heard the voice said, there is no death. Grandmother, did you just say that back there? No. You're just talking about no death, right?
Yeah.
Grandmother Anne loved the child. She laid her hand on Yahshua's head and said, I saw you stand beside the sea. I saw you touch the sand, and the waves I saw them turn into living things. And then I knew the meaning of the dream. The sea of life rose high. The storms are great. The multitude of men are idle, listless, waiting like dead sands upon the beach. Your want is truth, and this you touch the multitude, and every man becomes a messenger of the holy light and life. You touch the waves upon the sea of life. Their turmoil cease, and their winds become a song of praise. There is no death, because the wand of truth can change the driest bones to living things, and bring the loveliest flowers from stagnant ponds, and turn the most discordant notes to harmony and praise. Joachim said, my son, today you pass the 7th milestone of your way of life. For you are 7 years of age, and we will give you as a remembrance of this day whatever you desire. Choose that which will afford you most delight. And Yahshua said, I do not want a gift, for I am satisfied. If I could make a multitude of children glad upon this day, I would be greatly pleased. Now there are many hungry boys and girls in Nazareth who would be pleased to eat with us at this feast and share with us the pleasures of this day. The richest gift that you can give to me is your permission to go out and find those needy ones and bring them here, that they may feast with us. Joachim said, 'Tis well. Go out and find the needy boys and girls and bring them here. We will prepare enough for all. And Yahshua did not wait. He ran. He entered every home and hut and den of the town. He did not waste his words. He told his mission everywhere. And in a little time, 103 score of happy children were following Yahshua on Marmion Way. The guests made way. The banquet hall was filled with Yahshua's guests, and Yahshua and his mother served. And there was food enough for all, and all were glad. So the birthday gift of Yahshua was a crown of righteousness. Any thoughts or show them all?
I think I believe it's in the prophet's work somewhere where it says more are upright and fearless.
Yeah.
That's what Joshua is going through here in his dream. There's all these turmoils on that sea that he's on, rolling through, and that's now. More is coming up, and it is coming to something that's completely new. Some gravitate right away, but then you realize it's like a lifelong thing. It's not just about us today. It's the progeny, right? It's the children coming up. It's you have to be all
When I like about number 3, at 7 years old, just the consciousness to feed the other hungry kids.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
the neighborhood instead of getting gifts. Like I even myself growing up, where it's like I want everyone to come and have fun, but at the end of the day, I still want my stuff.
Right.
In his mind, it's like
I get my stuff.
Gifts, and then you go see these other kids that aren't eating. So it's like let me get the other kids that aren't eating, bring them over. Let them eat with you. And that's a better gift.
That's gonna be
Yeah.
Exactly. Anybody else?
Three score is 60, so 6 and 1 is 7. Well, it could be 100 score, and it could be 2006 games. But I took it to be 7 again.
So that's 2. That's 2 chapters. Yes, brother. Chapter 3. The life and works of Yahshua at the age of 10 years. The great feast of Jews was on, and Joseph, Mary, and their son, and many of their kin went to Jerusalem. The child was 10 years old, and Yahshua watched the butchers kill the lambs and birds and burn them on the altar in the name of Allah. His tender heart was shocked at the display of cruelty. He asked the serving priests, "What is the purpose of this slaughter of the beasts and birds? Why do you burn their flesh before Allah?" The priest replied, "This is our sacrifice for sin. Allah has commanded us to do these things and said that in sacrifices all our sins are blotted out." And Yahshua said, "Will you be kind enough to tell me when Allah proclaimed that sins are blotted out by the sacrifice of any kind? Did not David say that Allah requires not a sacrifice for sin? That it is sin itself to bring before his face burnt offerings of sin? Did not Isaiah say the same?" The priest replied, "My child, you are beside yourself. Do you know more about the law of Allah than all of Israel? There is no place for boys to show their wit." But Yahshua heeded not his taunts. He went at once to Hillel and said to him, "Rabboni, I would like to talk with you. I am disturbed about this service. I thought the temple was the house of Allah where love and kindness dwell. Do you not hear the bleating of those lambs, the pleading of those doves that men are killing over there? Do you not smell the awful stench of burning flesh? Can you be kind and just and still be filled with cruelty? And Allah that takes delight in burning flesh and blood is not Allah of love. He is not my Father. I want to find the Allah of love, and you, my master, you are wise, and surely you can tell me where to find the Allah of love." But Hillel could not give an answer to the child. His heart was stirred with sympathy. He called the child to him. He laid his hand upon his head and wept. He said, "There is an Allah of love, and you shall come with me, and hand in hand we will go forth and find Allah of love." And Yahshua said, "Why need we go? I thought Allah was everywhere. Can we not purify our hearts and drive out cruelty and every wicked thought, and make with a temple where Allah of love can dwell?" The master of the great courts felt as though he was himself a child, and that before him stood the master of all the laws. He said within himself, "This child is surely a prophet sent of Allah." Then Hillel sought the parents of the child and asked that Yahshua might abide with him and learn the precepts of the law and all the lessons of the temple. His parents gave consent, and Yahshua did abide in the temple every day. And every day the master learned from Yahshua many lessons of higher life. And the child remained in the temple of Hillel for a year, and then returned to his home in Nazareth. There he wrought with Joseph as a carpenter. So again, going back to what you were saying with him, his mindset as a child, 10 years old, smelling burnt offerings and stuff like that, questioning these people about what kind of house of Allah is this? Where all this murdering is going on of animals.
You question if they didn't hear the cries.
Right, yeah. You don't hear the bleeding. Do you not hear the bleeding of those lambs? The pleading of those doves that men are killing over there? Do you not smell the awful stench of burning flesh? Can you be kind and just and still be filled with cruelty?
When I really think about this chapter, it's like the sins that men and women are committing. They're sacrificing animals to repent for their own sins.
Yeah.
So it's like the animals didn't commit the
Didn't
sin.
commit the sins.
You
Yeah.
committed the sin. So it's like So it's just a level of reasoning at that age, right?
Yeah. And then that's the same mindset with our people, always blaming somebody outside themselves instead of looking to self as to why we have family problems, why we have health problems, why we have whatever issues we have. It's more than likely because of internal. It's more than likely because self didn't get checked when self was supposed to get checked. Or when self got checked, you didn't recognize or take heed to the check. Now you're dealing with something that could have been avoided. You know, like they say, prevention is better than cure. So nip it in the bud immediately.
I want to add here, can you define injustice still be cruelty? That goes back to, I think it's chapter 1, where it's talking about knowing the status, right?
Yeah.
So so you can be just, and you can be filled with all kinds of wild stuff, and yet be just. It seems like it has to go together. You're not going to get to that unless you know, I guess they use reason. That's a man, right? How far do you go?
Yeah. And then even went ahead and tried to do the pedophile pastor or whatever with him. Right? He laid his hand upon his head and wept. He said, "There is an Allah of love, and you shall come with me hand in hand, and we will go forth and go find some Allah or whatever." Like, why need we go into your little catacomb or whatever like that, hand in hand and all that type of stuff? For what? Right? I thought Allah's everywhere.
Right.
If Allah's everywhere, then obviously you're leading me somewhere, you're going in the back, behind some closed doors, whatever, hand in hand with you. And then you're crying, so I need the sympathy of you and all that type of stuff, because God kissed you. So obviously, you know, you have the connection to God, so I should go with you. 10 years old. That same lessons that they don't teach these children today. Why they'll be able to get picked up and snatched off or whatever. Because all children today do is talk to strangers. Like, they don't know they could get taken.
They don't have that concept.
Zero. Don't even have that concept. That, you know, there's people out there burning lambs and doves and stuff like that as sacrifice for their sins. Those are crazy people. Those are not people that you want around your children. The people burning stuff.
Oh, with all that animal
Right? You don't want them around. The master of the great courts felt as though he himself was a child. Right? It goes back to the humility again. You know? Reaching that place where you have to humble yourself now. Because 10-year-old is showing you that you don't even know what's going on. You're the head of this big edifice. You're the master, whatever. All these people are chasing you on every Sunday. They're coming here, kissing your ring and all that stuff. And you're talking about, talk to my parents so I could come teach you something. And then this is why they hate those that turn within. When you turn within, you don't need a middleman between you and some higher force. You want to go talk higher force, you go talk to them. As soon as there's a middleman, oh, nationality, oh yeah, well, you know, we have this over here, and join our whatever, and then we'll teach you how to do stuff right and all that. You already know they're trying to be a middleman. They should be telling you, here's the info, you go, come back in a year. We don't want you yet. You go get yourself right first, and then come back after you get right, and then let's see you joining up to something. Right? Again, this is why this was kept in the attic. chamber. Because also with these lessons, now you know how to control people. Now you know how to pull their strings. Because you're getting taught what Yahshua got taught and what he taught to humble the masters. And you're getting the keys to humble the masters so you can take those keys and actually humble yourself. Any other thoughts on chapter 3?
He was gone for a year teaching.
Good course. Hillel sought the parents of the child, asked that Yahshua might abide with them and learn the precepts of the law. All the parents gave consent, and Yahshua did abide in the temple every day. And every day the master learned from Yahshua many lessons of the higher life. And the child remained in the temple of Hillel for a year, and then returned to his home in Nazareth. There he wrought with Joseph as a carpenter. And then again, remember that for a year was to teach them.
And then he was studying.
Because he's teaching them, now he has access to all the holy books and all the sacred ground libraries that they got and all that stuff, because he's putting the big man on. Right? Yeah, Omar.
The year is the zodiac.
And that too. You want to elaborate a little on your zodiac thought there?
Oh, just that it's about all of our our entry into this plane is through one of the gates, one of the houses. And it's about mastering the other houses, or your relationship with those other houses. So him riding with Joseph as a carpenter is him building through the different houses and the different gates.
Right.
So it's him. It wasn't a literal year. It was him conquering, or him mastering
Mastering the gates.
All the different zodiac signs, which is what we are here to do.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he was talking about Allah love being here is really about us vibrating at that frequency of love. Not about going somewhere to find it.
Right. Once you are loved, no need to look for it.
So love is Allah. And Allah is love.
Chapter 4. Yahshua talks with the rabbi of the 10 Commandments. Now, Rabbi Barakiah of Nazareth and Yahshua, the son of Joseph and Mary, Rabbi was aid in teaching the son. One morning after service in the temple, Yahshua, as he sat in silent thought, Rabbi said to Yahshua, "What is the greatest of the 10 commands?" And Yahshua said, "I do not see the greatest of the 10 commands. I see a gold cord that runs through all the 10 commands, that binds them fast and makes them one. This cord is love, and it belongs to every word of all of the 10 commands. If one is full of love, you can do nothing else but worship Allah, for Allah is love." If one is full of love, he cannot kill. He cannot falsely testify. He cannot covet. He can do naught but honor Allah and man. If one is full of love, he does not need commands of any kind. And Rabbi Barakiah said, your words are seasoned with the salt of wisdom that is from above. He is the teacher who has opened up this truth. Who is the teacher that has opened up this truth to you? And Yahshua said, I do not know any teacher opening up this truth for me. It seems to me that truth was never shut, that it was always opened up. For truth is one and it is everywhere. And if we open up the windows of our mind, the truth will enter in and make herself at home. For truth can find her way through any crevice, any window, any open door. The rabbi said, what hand is strong enough to open up the windows and the doors of our minds so truth can enter it? And Yahushua said, it seems to me that love, the golden cord that binds the 10 commandments in one, is strong enough to open any human door so that truth can enter in and cause the heart to understand. Now in evening, Yahushua and his mother sat alone. And Yahushua said, the rabbi seems to think that Allah is partial in his treatments of his sons of men, that Jews are favored and blessed above all other favorites and be just. Are not the Samaritans and the Greeks and the Romans just as much the children of the holy ones as are the Jews? I think the Jews have built a wall around themselves and they see nothing on the other side. They do not know that flowers are blooming over there, that sowing time belongs to anyone but the Jews. It surely would be well if we could break those barriers down so that the Jews might see that Allah has other children that are just as greatly blessed. I want to go from Jewry land and meet my kin in other countries of my fatherland. So again, we have also the reoccurring theme, not only of earlier with the 7, but also the theme of love being spread throughout this, that the strength that we're seeking is going to come through love. Us realizing that love cord binds everything that is in existence, and that it's not something that we can't attain. All we have to do is be open to the fact that this is a reality. All we have to do is be open. There's no, mechanism that you're going to turn that's going to open the windows of the mind. There's no lock to unlatch. All it has to be is perception. And that perception is what's gonna maintain the form of whatever it is that you want to manifest based on how divine we are looking at ourselves, or how mundane we're looking at ourselves. Like we're saying, Yahshua is here and he's with the doctors of the law. He's with the high priests. He's with the people who are claiming to have the superior authority, and these people can't even deal with him. They're stumped when he comes around because he makes them look unimportant. 10 years old or whatever. They're unimportant to him. You're not gonna influence my mind into being under your whatever you're claiming I should be under. It's not happening like that. Because I've sat in all the halls of learning that you guys sat in already. I know you guys are full of BS. You're not gonna run game on me. You can't run the middle, the 3-card Molly on the guy who knows you guys are playing card tricks and stuff. Why would I put my money on the table if I know that these guys are doing double-headed coins and stuff like that? Right? So it takes also how he's considering that these people really don't know. Like, you know, goes to his mom after, like, yo, the preacher guy doesn't know what's going on. Rabbi's tripping over there. Rabbi doesn't even know these basic stuff. And he's like, you know what? Forget this Jew stuff. Let's go somewhere else, go get some knowledge from some other people. But obviously, these people aren't qualified to teach me if I'm going there to teach them.
You see that on the contradictory behavior.
Yeah.
Various movements. I don't think people have that same conviction in themselves,
Yeah.
the same trust in themselves to find their own path in the face of hypocrisy and whatnot.
Yeah.
They're going to just keep following because I don't know.
Yeah. And again, and it comes back to that thing of not having these lessons. Because these 3 chapters that we read, we take these 3 chapters, we bring some people together who got problems, and we go through those chapters and we break that down to those people. Those 3 chapters will save those people of what we just read. Forget all the other chapters we didn't even read yet. Just those ones. But again, it has to be the people realizing that they have to have some form of humility. They have to accept the fact that, yeah, I know you got all this stuff on the wall hanging up that you went to there and here and over there to go learn something. But they didn't teach you nothing. Nothing was learned. You know, that really means something. Yeah, you learned something, don't get me wrong. But stuff that you really needed to learn so that you don't have, you know, these reoccurring problems that we see that are societal, that we always seem to get in and nobody seems to know how to get out of. You know, all these lessons that are being relayed to us again through what Noel Juali presented. After we go through them and you realize how divine these lessons are, it's only natural for you to question the people before who should have known about this. Because if we found out about this, then everybody should know about this. This couldn't be that hidden that nobody knows about this. Because if they were really studying, they would at least bumped into the Aquarian Gospel and read that. But you know, if they're looking at European as the devil and all that type of stuff, then they would never read that. When that has keys in there that can assist them to get out of issues that they're having. Right?
I find it interesting too because I don't think it's uncommon knowledge that there's a period in Yahshua's life that is unaccounted for in common knowledge, right? But then for people to know that, I mean, and then further, there are people that do know that in that unaccounted time that he traveled to different lands and studied with different books. Yeah. But then even further to that, I don't think it's so common that people know that was about his, it was a decision made of his own accord from seeing the hypocrisy.
Yes. As a child.
As a child.
Yeah.
Because if he's the leader that everybody's supposed to be looking up to and following in that sense, and he became somebody because he saw the hypocrisy of the other, that's basically a clear signal to everybody. You know,
that's a template.
To move the middleman out of the way and seek for yourself. And you can't control people when they're coming from that perspective.
Exactly. Exactly. Any other comments, or questions? If anybody has questions too, feel free to present those, whether it's on topic or not.
Catch me up. You guys talking about the mystery of salvation?
Yeah. So we're just at chapter 3 right now.
Okay.
Chapter 4. Yeah. We're just going through that.
Yeah, it's funny because the brother that I used to bring in, and I were talking about building on marriage. The whole thing about what marriage is and whatnot.
Right.
Married by nature.
Yeah.
It's just funny how we're talking.
Yeah, it's a thing. You know what I mean? It's a thing that's how it goes. The stuff lines up. You had something, bro?
When he was
about the natural beauty of life. They're not really seeing it. The marketing use at the time, they think they're God's favorite.
Yeah.
They can't even see the flowers bloom
Right.
on the wall, so they're not.
So boxed in
Yeah.
to their little reality that they think is everything. Yeah.
And Allah has no favorites.
Right. And then also too, reference that they recognize that Allah is God or the higher force. Whether he's dealing with the rabbi, he's talking about Allah. You didn't talk about no Yahweh with them. Rabbi relating to him, Allah. But I thought they were on the Yahweh and all that stuff. How come the rabbinate is talking about Allah is the higher force? Right? Obviously those people were their stuff is subordinate to what was the norm. Right? Oh, and for the mothers, I don't know if you saw the little table in the hall right there.
Yeah.
With the okay. Yeah, with the coloring stuff. Yeah. Chapter 5. Yahshua again and his first year of divine ministry. Yee! The Jewish Paschal feast time came, and Yahshua left his mother in Capernaum and he abode with a Sadducee whose name was Jude. The temple court, the multitudes were there to see the prophet. People thought had come to break the yoke of Rome and restore the kingdom of the Jews and the rules of David's throne. And when the people saw him come, they said, "All hail." But Yahshua answered not. He saw the money changers in the house of Allah, and he was grieved. The courts had been converted into marts of trade, and men were seeing lambs and doves. Men were selling lambs and doves for priests. And Yahshua called the priests and said, "Behold, for paltry gain, you have sold out the temple of Allah. This house ordained for prayer is now a den of thieves. Can good and evil dwell together in the courts of Allah? I tell you, no." And then he drove them out and overturned the boards. He opened up the cages of the captive birds, cut the cords that bound the lambs, and set them free. The priests and scribes rushed out and would have done him harm, but the common people drove them back and stood in his defense. And then the rulers said, "Who is this Yahshua you call divine?" The people said, "He is one of the prophets. He is the one the prophets wrote concerning, who would come and bring the world of love to Allah, love of Allah, made known to men of earth, who will deliver Israel." The ruler said to Yahshua, "If you be the one to come, then show us a sign. Who gave you the right to drive these merchants out?" And Yahshua said, "There is no loyal Jew who would not give his life to save his temple from disgrace. In this, I acted simply as a loyal Jew, and you yourself will bear witness to the truth. The sign of my messiahship will follow me in word and deed. And you may tear the temple down, and in 3 days it will be built again." Now Yahshua meant that they might take his life, tear down his body, temple of the holy breath, and he would rise again. "You men of Israel, hear. This man is more than man. Take heed to what you do. I have myself heard Yahshua speak, and all the winds are still. And you will see his star arise, and it will grow until it is the full orbed son of love. And Yahshua said, prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. But you can never see the king while you pass sin in your hearts. This king is Allah. The pure in heart alone can see the face of Allah and live. Right, so remember that the heart, the pure in heart alone can see the face of Allah and live, due to man being one with Allah. So when man recognizes man for the greatness that man is, that's Allah that you're looking at. Because we already know that Allah is faceless. So the face of Allah has to be another being that is vibrating on this love frequency so high that you can actually, just like the demons vibrating so low that you don't want to be face to face with them. Right? That wouldn't be where you want to trade energy. You would want to trade energy with somebody who's of like mind so that you're getting something. There's exchange. You don't want it to be a battle of you trying to keep yours or stop somebody else from taking yours or whatever. There has to be a stream of a proper tone to maintain the love vibration. That's only going to be done with people who are of the like mind as you. People who are where you're at. People who recognize that there's a higher calling than just what the mundane is. Like going back again to all these sinners with their sacrificing. And we look at that with today, like what are people sacrificing for? They're sacrifice so they can have newest iPhone. They sacrifice for some sneakers, and they sacrifice for some mundane things. But when it comes to sacrificing for higher things or greater things, they're limited in how much stuff they want to sacrifice. All of a sudden, there's no doves and stuff like that when it's for higher things.
And they're sacrificing each other for those
right,
things now.
Exactly. Right, now they themselves now are on the altar. And then going back to the astrology about you may tear the temple down in 3 days, it will be built again, right? The sign of the Messiahship will follow me in word and deed, right? So the Messiahship is the knowledge. The Messiahship is the degrees or the rays, right? Being the sun, walking on water, the extension of this intellectual connection is with the Most High. So he would once he agrees to be in the light, once he agreed to say, okay, you know what? It's about knowledge, wisdom, understanding. That's what is gonna come to you. There's so many Moors out there who we know that because they study the information, whether it's books, whatever, came to them that we wouldn't have access to this if it wasn't for this Moor that was studying. One of these Moors that said, you know what, yeah, well, we want our people to know something or whatever, so we're going to, go do research. And they go research, they find so much stuff that they just have to put it out because they can't even use it like that. They can't do anything with it themselves because it's just so much information that they just have to give it to the people. And then out of them doing that, somebody's going to find it Somebody's gonna get that knowledge, right? And once they get that knowledge, they're gonna apply that to themselves in some way, shape, or form. That might not even be the way that the person who gave it to them thought it would be able to be used for. You know? And that thing gains momentum. Again, going back to Drew Ali again. If you be the one to come, then show us a sign. Who gave you the right to drive these merchants out? And Yahshua said, there is no loyal Jew who would not give his life to save the temple from disgrace. Right? Same thing that Drew Ali told him was that defend this with the utmost of your very life. If you love the prophet and you love the temple and you love your nationality and birthrights or whatever, then you'll rep for this. Right? He doesn't know any loyal Jew who would not give up his life to save the temple. Like, he doesn't know any Jew that wouldn't give up his life to save what it is that was brought to them as their salvation spiritually.
When he's saying this as they're disgracing the temple.
Yeah. While they're doing messed up stuff there, he's saying, I see you people doing messed up stuff here. And the people who we know stand for righteousness and whatever, they wouldn't stand for you guys stuff that you're doing up in here.
Turn over the tables.
Turn over the tables, let the animals free, empty all the cages of the doves or whatever like that. And now these people want to try to take his life because he stopped their money. Right? Stop their cash flow, stop their playing the people. Same stuff. Same exact stuff that we're seeing today. This is why these lessons were presented to the public of the Asiatics in America in the 1900s. From, or say early 1900s. From 1930, that was it.
Well, you know what else is interesting too that I believe I heard there, it was the people that came to his physical defense.
Yeah.
Once he turned over the table, they wanted to do something. It was the people that came to his physical defense and stood in the way. And unto today, we still have people that are coming here. I mean, people commonly believe that anybody has to step up today from our community to try to lead. You're going to have some kind of, whether it's like a co-health or whatever it is, you're trying to essentially stop their money. They don't want to come and take it out.
Yeah.
But again, it's the people that have to stand in the way. But the people don't know. They don't know anymore. So far removed at this point. That's all it's listening.
Yeah.
Parallel between that information.
Anybody else have anything for chapter 5?
You didn't say how old it was at this point.
No.
Because I've seen representations of this chapter, but these are a lot older than grown.
Yeah, it seems like he's grown at this point. Or more grown. Chapter 6. Yahshua, presented with his camel, goes to Lahore, where he abides. A caravan of merchantmen was journeying through the Kashmir Valley as Yahshua passed that way. And they were going to Lahore, a city of the land, the 5-stream land. The merchantmen had heard the prophet speak, had seen his mighty works in Leh, L-E-H, and they were glad to see him once again. And when they knew that they were going to Lahore and then across the sea through Persia and further west, and that they had no beast on which to ride, They freely gave to him a noble Bactrian beast, well saddled and equipped. And Yahshua journeyed with the caravan, and when he reached Lahore, and some other Brahmic priests received him with delight. A Jainin was a priest who came to Yahshua in the nighttime in Benares many months before, and heard his words of truth. And Yahshua was a Jainin's guest. He taught again in many things, revealed to him the secret of the healing art. He taught him how he could control the spirits of the air, the fire, the water, and the earth. He explained to him the secret doctrine of forgiveness and blotting out of sin. One day, a Jainin sat with Yahshua in the temple porch. A bank of wandering singers and musicians paused before the court to sing and play. Their music was most rich and delicate. And Yahshua said, among the high-bred people of the land, we have no sweeter music than that of these uncouth children of the wilderness bring here to us. From whence his talent and his power? From whence this talent and this power? In one short life, they surely could not gain such grace of a voice, such knowledge of the laws of harmony and tone. These people are not young. 1,000 years ago would not suffice to give them such divine expressiveness and such purity of voice and touch. Men call them prodigies. There are no prodigies. All things result from natural law. 10,000 years ago, these people mastered harmony. In days of old, they trod the busy thoroughfares of life and caught the melody of birds and played on harps of perfect form, and then have come again to learn still other lessons from the variety notes of manifests. These wandering people form a part of heaven's orchestra, and in the land of perfect things, the very angels will delight to hear them play and sing. And Yahshua taught the common people of Lahore. He healed their sick and showed to them the way to rise to better things by helping others. He said, we are not rich by what we get and hold. The only things we keep are those we give away. If we give life a perfect life, give forth our life in service for our kind and for the form of life that men esteem the lower forms of life. But Yahshua could not tarry longer in Lahore. He bade the priests and other friends farewell, and then he took his camel and he went his way towards Sin. Sindh. Any thoughts on that chapter?
Right. He shared the secrets of the healing arts when he was there, or did he learn the secrets of the healing arts?
He learned.
He learned, okay.
Yeah.
And then controlling the spirits of the elements like earth, water, fire.
And Yahshua was a Jain's guest. He taught again in many things, revealed to him the secrets of the healing art. He taught him how to control the spirits of air, fire, water, and earth, and explained to him the secret doctrine of forgiveness and blotting out of sin.
Line 18, the only things we keep are those that we give away. You know, it's like we're trying to reach that point of love.
Yeah.
With all this anger that we have coming into the knowledge of what it is, right? And that's the hard part. The hard part is when it comes to loving to someone who's, you know, giving you a hard time, it's just really good. Yeah, you gotta learn to live with that, right? But if you want peace, I guess you have to give peace too.
So taking place in the present was also presently by the Son.
Anybody else?
Just in fact, but I think each one of these lessons, there's always sort of one sort of nut, or there's a number of nuggets, but to me, it seems to be like sort of the mundane and then the spiritual. But this one is that it's really about giving.
Yeah.
That's the key to everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely about giving. That's the only thing that matters. So that to me is very good. And then as well as stating that every one of us, this is some of the stuff when we went to Montreal, we went to that observatory, and they had the different gates.
Yeah.
And what I thought was
Everybody's
manifestation
of
everyone's sort of strong suit to
Yeah.
their gates.
Yeah.
I think that that's what they're stating. Each one of us has something. He was using the reference point of these singers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing that.
Yeah.
So it could be being a bricklayer.
Yeah.
It could be
Whatever it is that you're.
That's who you've been.
Yeah.
You need to sort of. I think that's the secret message. You need to figure out what that is.
And then continue to.
But then also continue to learn.
Yeah.
Again, it ties back to the gates.
Yeah.
So it's about learning everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, the idea of them making reference to the temple, and then every time they mention the temple, they also make reference to it being a court. Yeah. Right.
That makes a lot more sense holistically.
What's that?
Actually, temple is your core.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And then also too, making that correlation again. Men call them prodigies. There are no prodigies. All things are result from natural law. All things are a result from natural law. Chapter 7. Again, Elihu's lessons, the mysteries of Egypt. Again, Elihu taught, he said, the Indian priest became corrupt. Brahm was forgotten in the streets. The rights of men were trampled in the dust. And then a mighty master came, a Buddha of enlightenment, who turned away from wealth and all honors of the world, and found the silence in the graves and caves, and he was blessed. He taught the gospel of a higher life, and taught men how to honor man. He had no doctrine of the gods to teach. He just knew man, and so his creed was justice, love, and righteousness. I quote to you a few of the many of the helpful words which Buddha spoke. That is a cruel world. If man hates you, regard it not, and you can turn to the hate of men to love and mercy and goodwill. Mercy is as large as all the heavens, and there is good enough for all. With good destroy the bad. With generous deeds make avarice ashamed. With truth make straight the crooked lines that errors draw. For error is the truth distorted, gone astray, and pain will follow him who speaks or acts with evil thought. As does the wheel, the foot of him who draws the cart. He is the greater man who conquers self, than he who kills 1,000 men in war. Kills 1,000 men in war. He is the noble man who is himself what he believes that other man should be. Return to him.
You just spill water on the socket.
Return to him who does not wrong your purest love, and he will cease from doing wrong. For love will purify the heart of him who is beloved, as truly as it purifies the heart of him who is loved. The words of Buddha are recorded in the Indian sacred books. Attendeth them, for they are part of the instructions of the holy breath. The land of Egypt is the land of secret things. The mysteries of the sages lie lock-bound in our temples and shrines. The master of all things and climes come here to learn. And when your sons have grown to manhood, they will finish all their studies in Egyptian schools. But I have said enough. Tomorrow at the rising of the sun, we meet again. Elahi's Lessons, The Mysteries of Egypt, Chapter 7. And again, going into another school of thought now, into Buddhism. So he dealt with the Persian school of thought, he dealt with the Egyptian school of thought, dealt with Jewish school of thought, school of Psalms, Keys of Solomon. Now Buddhists dealt with the Vedic, right? So there was definitely an open field of learning, you know, and again, it's part of us mimicking, emulating, you know, following what the masters did. Don't worry about what the disciples did. The disciples more than likely aren't telling you what the masters did, because then you wouldn't need the middleman disciples. Again, going back with the concept of the lessons of astrology being in place, every son of God or whatever has 12 disciples. Every prophet has 12 individuals around them that stir from them, no matter what culture it is. That's just what the standard is, because it's really astrological lessons. Every individual that is a disciple is one of the signs of the zodiac. And with not completely understanding those signs of the zodiac, you get led astray.
So it's like principles that are universal to all disciplines.
Right. And again, going back to that connection of all things, that thing that binds all the things, that spiritual connection, that golden cord that runs through all things, that makes us have these revelations that, oh, okay, every time we see sevens, that's dealing with the chakras. No matter who's talking, no matter what they're talking about. If they're in some school of thought or whatever, and there's a 7 or sevens or reference to 7, or they have 7 bridges somewhere, or 7 candlesticks somewhere, or 7 whatever, they're talking about chakras. It's just right? Right, yeah. Which again is, you know, the spiritual chakras. It's always talking about some type of metaphysical reference point. You know, if they say 11s, they're talking about a gateway.
So I guess in that sense, this is kind of how that lack of humility can lead us to miss things, because if we're identifying so closely with one identity, one concept, we look at other things and think that's not me or that's not mine.
Right, it has nothing to do with you. Yeah, when it has everything to do with you, because we are the founders of everything. So it's like with the youth man, he's a baller. Balls hard every day, want to be in the gym or whatever like that. But he got, you know, 50s in math. But bank shot is trigonometry. And he'll hit 50 of those in a row. And then you put him in the classroom and then he doesn't know what, how does this?
We're thinking that the academic understanding of it is for nerds.
Oh yeah, it's not him.
Nerds,
Yeah,
that's not me.
right, that's not him. But he's the biggest nerd if he's on a basketball court. He can hit 50 jump shots. Right.
Not just that, it deals with the sacred ground also, anything that has to do with movement.
Yep.
When you really think about it, athletes should be something physically conquering these.
Yeah.
It's the mental aspect of it.
Yeah. You have to have some type of mental, sturdiness to go to those levels. But again, if they're not given those things from the jump and they're learn them later or whatever like that, then like they're doing the thing now of is LeBron's son greater than him when he was 13 or whatever. When it's not, you can't really it's not comparable like that. You're two different beings in their own space. Islam, fam. Return to him who does you wrong your purest love, and he will cease from doing wrong. For love will purify the heart of him who is beloved, and truly as it purifies the heart of him who loves. All right, return to him who does you wrong your purest love. And that eliminate all the wars on the planet. Kill them with kindness. No matter what they do, you give them love vibes all the time. Eventually, they're not going to want your love vibes if they're really on some destruction. They would just not want to deal with it because the energy is it's going to be overbearing for them. It's overbearing for them. Chapter 8, the Council of the Seven of the World. In every age since time began, but 7 sages lived. At first of every age, these sages meet to note the course of nations, peoples, tribes, and tongues, to note how far toward justice and love the race has gone, to formulate the code of law, religious postulates, and plans of rule best suited for the coming age. An age had passed, and lo, another age had come. The sages must convene. Now Alexandria was the center of the world's best thought, and here in Philo, home the sages met. From China came Mengsti, from India Vidyapati came, from Persia Caspar came, from Assyria Ashbina came, from Greece Apollo came. Methino was the Egyptian sage, and Philo was the chief of Hebrew thought. The time was due. The council met and sat in silence 7 days. And Mengsti rose and said, the wheel of time has turned once more. The race is on a higher plane of thought. The garments that our fathers wore have given up. The cherubim have woven a celestial cloth, have placed it in our hands, and we must make for men new garbs. The sons of men are looking up for great light. No longer do they care for gods hewn out of wood. They seek for a law not made with hands. They seek the beams of coming days and yet comprehend them not. The time is ripe, and we must fashion well these garments for the race. And let us make for men new garbs of justice, mercy, and love, that they might hide their nakedness when shines the light of coming days. And Vidyapati said, our priests have all gone mad. They saw a demon in the wilds, and at them cast their lamps, and they are broken up, and not a gleam of light has any priest for men. The night is dark. The heart of India calls for light. The priesthood cannot be reformed. It is already dead. The greatest needs are graves and funeral chants. The new age calls for liberty, the kind that makes each man a priest, enables him to go alone and lay his offerings on the shrine of Allah. And Casper said, in Persia, people walk in fear. They do the good for fear to do the wrong. The devil is the greatest power in our land. And though a myth, he dangles on his knees both youth and age. Our land is dark, and evil prospers in the dark. Fear rides on every passing breeze and lurks in every form of life. The fear of evil is a myth, is an illusion, and snare, but it will live until some mighty power shall come home to raise the ethers to the plane of light. When this shall come to pass, the Magian land will glory in the light. The soul of Persia calls for light. Chapter 8.
We're touching on the 7 stages, how they meet. And they saying how they have formulated this plan for the cooking stages. Because like men love to like follow themselves, you know what I mean? They're saying how they just come together, 4 corners of the earth come together literally, and form these stages. Because men can't really say men cannot comprehend, you know, certain things. So we have to make it like a simple way that they may comprehend, right? And so like setting those stages every so often or whatever, it's like I feel like it's like this realm that we're in right now, this present time, how we're sitting here right now.
Yeah.
The stages are formed in a way where, you know, it's time where how we passed the dark age, the Pisces age, and now we're in the Aquarian, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now everybody's waking up, and it's being done in a simple way where it's not too hard to comprehend.
Brother Omar.
I'd like to sort of go on.
Yeah, go ahead, Brother Walker.
The part that I took that resonated with me was where they said that again, the priesthood is dead, you know. And look at how long this sorcery has been going on.
Yeah.
You know? I was looking at a movie the other day, and the people were in church, and they were doing their thing, and they were giving their money and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, whoever thought up that idea was a flipping genius. You know what I mean? You can get people to believe anything, and make them pay, type of thing. You know, as long as you have people believing the brainwashing that. You know, we have to have a middleman, we have to have these priests, we have to follow someone, you know. It's over for us, you know, when we start to realize that there's no Messiah, there's no one that's going to come and lead us out of what we're in now. We have to be the one to do it, you know. That's all that it really is waking up and understanding that there is no other human that has more power than you do to connect to your higher self. You know, and that's basically what it's all about. But they have us believing that we have to go through some other person or some institution to get what we're supposed to have in this lifetime, and that's a whole lot of nonsense. And as long as they have us under that spell, then they can make us do anything. Basically, it's complete control. You ever heard of spirit money? It's not just for this life. The people are buying for the next life. You know, exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but you know, we indoctrinate our children from the time they're babies. We take them to places where they're taught all kinds of things about. And as parents, a lot of times we don't even understand it ourselves, but it's generations. Our parents, our grandparents, them. So we're going to go to it because that's what we were taught. And basically, what we were taught was don't think for yourself. Don't think for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's all about fear and control. Okay, exactly. Don't ask any questions. Just have faith. That's crazy. To me, that's complete madness.
Mm.
In reference to current events, these sages coming together. A few years ago, the Pope and the 11 or 12 other leaders across the world got together and they did the end of slavery. I don't know if it's been officially signed, but it was a covenant that they were discussing ending the whole concept of slavery international. That's the same idea again. All these leaders come together and saying, okay, we have to set some rules, and they're kind of doing that same type of kind of problem. It's not quite at the same level, per se, but on the more mundane level, that seems to be going on.
Mm-hmm.
And yet slavery still exists.
Yeah, that's here.
But then again, if you get 12 religious bigwigs to say something is so, then the whole world kind of goes along with programs. And they said so, so they, it must be so. But we know different. We're living it every day,
One part.
Yeah.
Justice, mercy, and love, like the clothes of the righteous or something. We were reading and it hit me, but then I couldn't retain it.
Okay. The sons of men are looking up for greater light. No longer do they care for gods hewn out of wood. They seek for a law not made with hands. They see the beams of coming days and yet comprehend them not. The time is ripe, and we must fashion well these garments for the race. And let us make for men new garbs of justice, mercy, and love, that they may hide their nakedness when shines the light of coming days. And let us make for men new garbs of justice, mercy, and love, that they may hide their nakedness when shines the light of coming days.
That's lower self. Coming days, lower self, right? The opposite of justice, mercy, and love. That's what you're trying to cover up. Your nakedness is the lower self.
Right, your nakedness is the lower existence. Right, because again, the wheel of time has turned once more, and the race is on a higher plane. Because the race is on a higher plane, we have to give them new garbs, because the garbs that they have worn out. But the new garbs that they're going to get is going to be of justice, mercy, and love. That's more on a spiritual level for the plane that you're going into, because you want to make sure that you're dressed according to the event.
I'd like to say that the real religion is the zodiac.
Yep. Right. So and that's the whole race being like, we can look at the time frame that we're living in, the special time that we're living in, at the change of the age, like the going over the threshold into the new existence. There's people who only lived in the middle of the changeovers. Like we're living in the time of it crossing over to the other one. So, the benefits that we're going to get from being able to witness this is going to be more than the people later who are looking back at it. Like, oh, well, look what that happened. Right? It's happening right now with us. We are seeing people, you snap your finger, they're waking up. They might fall back into a lower state, but the influence is there to be able to draw people, to be able to inspire people, to be able to make people want to be better. It's not a grueling task as much anymore. You know what I mean? Because those who want to wake up are going to wake up, and that's the only ones that really matter. The ones who love sleeping are going to be sleeping. Let them sleep. You know what I mean? Because like Brother Todd was talking about with, You know, even when you wake people up, you don't know where you're gonna get when they wake up. Some people don't like to get woke up and stuff like that. You know what I mean? You wake up somebody, now you're fighting with them for the rest of your life because you woke them up. But you should just let them stay in their sleeping. But again, going back to the turning over the tables of the money chambers or whatever, Vidya Patti said, our priests have all gone mad. They saw a demon in the wild, and at him cast their lamps, and they are broken up, and not a gleam of light has any priest from it. So the priests themselves saw demons, and instead of using the light to chase the demons, they casted the light at the demons. Once the demon moves, well, then you just threw your light away like a dumbass. Now you're in darkness. You're the high priest or whatever, but now you're in darkness with all the other people in darkness because he had the light and casted it at something to try to defend the people when you're the middleman of you and God, and that's the brilliant idea that you came up with. The demon's over there. Oh yeah, throw the light over there at that demon over there instead of, you know, chant something or pull out a book, read a chapter, or you know, you got some holy water in the pocket. Throw that. You're gonna throw the light. And now remember, if light's knowledge, and now the demon has the light, the demon's more powerful. The night is dark. The heart of India calls for light. The priesthood cannot be reformed. It is already dead. Its greatest needs are graves and funeral chants. All right. The priesthood is dead. Again, with the thing about the money changers. Those guys aren't priests. They're money changers.
Not even changers.
Right?
Because they haven't even.
Yeah, they're straight not even changers. They're straight robbing you, keeping the change and everything. Right? Its greatest needs, the priest's greatest needs are graves and funeral chants. That's all they're good for.
And isn't it interesting? Most people, when they get ready to have this meeting, they're ready to shell out an arm and a leg.
Oh yeah.
You know, it'd be this big business.
Yeah, super big
You're
business.
gonna somebody in a hole in the ground. How much did that?
How much could it cost? Yeah, to dig a hole. Yeah.
This after. So.
That's,
So,
yeah.
You know, lines up with that whole.
Yeah.
You know, wait, you gotta pay for the dirt that you're gonna be setting.
Washrooms?
You know.
That's what washroom or is it washrooms? It's downstairs.
Which is, you know, it's kind of,
Yeah, this,
again, it's that whole middleman thing.
They want to rob me from the grave.
They want to rob you all day long, the
Yep.
grave, or when
robbing
you're
you in the
here,
grave.
you
Yeah.
know, right on down the road.
Yeah.
I pay taxes.
Huh?
I said, I pay taxes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Strong man, right?
That's all it is. But people gotta realize that. And even when you check it out, the funeral business is a very closed business.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't just jump up and say, we want to open up a funeral product.
Yeah.
It's very, very close. So these people have this thing, it's like everything else. They have their, you know, not old boys clubs and monopolies and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of it is they want to tell you how it's a religious thing and all this other stuff. And people just kind of take it at face value.
Yeah. No questions.
And of course, they throw in their man's wallet. They make it illegal for you to do anything other than what's already set up.
Well, when you should, as the natural people, be able to dispose of your, or take care of your, whatever, your people when they go.
Naturally, without.
In the way that you,
Exactly. Other animals happen here.
They do the good for fear of doing the wrong. It's like a certain amount of pressure in the society, right? To go a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to fit in socially, and so on, whether even on the job or in families. It's more of a fear factor, right? You know, just trying to do things, but not necessarily because they want to, because, you know.
Yeah, you've been forced. Yeah, you've been forced to do it. Yeah. And again, you know, Casper said, in Persia, people walk in fear. My fear rides on every passing breeze and lurks in every form of life. The fear of evil is a myth, is an illusion and snare, but it will live until some mighty power shall come to raise the ethers to the plane of light. When this shall come to pass, the Magian land will glory in the light. The soul of Persia calls for light. Chapter 9. Opening address of Yahshua with the 7 sages. 7 days in silence. And then the 7th theme again. Ashbina said, Assyria is a land of doubt. The chariot of my people, that in which they mostly ride, is labeled doubt. Our once faith walked in Babylon, and she was bright and fair, but she was clothed in such white robes that men became afraid of her. And every wheel began to turn. And doubt made war on her and drove her from the land. And she came back no more. In form, man worships Allah, the One. In heart, they are not sure that Allah exists. Faith worships at the temple of one not seen, but doubt must see her God. The greatest needs of all Assyria is faith, a faith that seasons everything that is with certainty. And then Apollo said, the greatest needs of Greece are true conceptions of Allah the One. In Greece, it is rudderless to every thought, may be a God to worship as Allah. The plane of thought is broad and full of sharp antagonists. And so the circle of the gods is filled with enmity, with wars and base intrigues. Greece needs a mastermind to stand above the gods, to raise the mind of men away from the many gods to Allah the One. We know the light is coming over the hills. Allah speed the light. Mathino said, behold, this land of Egypt of the dead. Our temples long have been tombs of hidden things of time. Our temple crypts and caves are dark. In light there is no secret things. The sun reveals all hidden truth. There is no mysteries in Allah. Behold the rising sun. His beams are entering every door. Yes, every crevice of the mystic crypts of Mizraim. Oh yeah, don't forget to check out Mantis Views 29 for all the YouTube people. We hail the light. All Egypt craves the light. And Philo said, the need of Hebrew thought and life is liberty. The Hebrew prophets, seers, and givers of the law were men of power, men of holy thought, and they bequeathed to us a system of love that was ideal, one strong enough to lead our people to the goal of perfectness. But carnal minds repudiated the law of love and filled the minds with selfishness, and purity in heart became a myth. The people were enslaved. But when he comes, who is to come, he will proclaim emancipation for the slaves. My people will be free. Behold, for Allah has made incarnate wisdom, love, and light, which he called Emmanuel. To him is given the key to open up the dawn. And here as man he walketh with us. And then the council chamber door will open, and the Logos stood among the sages of the world. Again the sages sat in silence 7 days. It's chapter 9. Opening address of Yahshua with the 7 sages, 7 days in silence. That's another evil of our people with fear is doubt. And always questioning things, even when they have higher knowledge. And taken the steps in order for them to realize that they're on the right path. Because anytime somebody tells you, then you're not on the path they are. Once you're on the path, then your ears are open to what you're being told as you're on the path. Once you're on it, on the path itself, the trees on the path, the animals on the path, the wind, whatever it is that you get from natural law on the path is what is leading you on the path. As soon as the guy jumps out the bushes, tell me, yeah, this is the way to go, whatever it is. You know that's not. Labyrinth? Yeah. Right.
She's on a quest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything's guiding her the wrong way.
Yeah.
When she's going, intuitively, she's going.
Intuitively, you're going in the right direction.
All these things are jumping out misdirected.
Yeah.
The
A remake of Labyrinth?
the original one the day before.
Yeah.
We did a remake of it.
Right, there's another one, Labyrinth. Anybody else for chapter 9? There was a lot in there.
So like the part there's no mystery in God.
Yeah.
Truly no God. Revelations. Now with the 7 days in silence, that's the daytime and the night. Right?
Yeah. 7 days in silence. Also, in order for you to activate meditation. So the in silence is really, again, going within self to get your answers. Now, once the answers are revealed to you from self, then you're not gonna doubt it then if self tells you. Like when we deal with self told you not to whatever, and then you didn't listen to that, and then you broke your ankle or whatever, because self told you not to go to the store. Now you're, talking to that guy because he did whatever his wife. Well, if you weren't there, you wouldn't have got what you got. That self told you, you shouldn't go there. Or as youth, when you get the sort of nothing to do and you're just going to do something just because.
Bad-mindedness.
The devil calling you outside.
That's right. That's right.
Who's calling you outside right now to go do whatever?
Yes, how did you know? And it's true.
Yeah.
It wasn't the devil, it was lower self.
Yeah. Yeah, you're haunted. Lower self calling you.
Except for the enough rituals from your mom when you're going outside of those.
Huh?
I said you have to do enough reverse rituals.
Yeah.
You always put your mom out.
Yep. Text you quick fast. Watch when you go outside. Watch what's gonna happen.
I'm even on the way I was dissecting everything to make sure I get back over the way I have.
Anointing yourself before you go.
Yep. Anointing with oil.
It's all in big faith, but the word is so powerful that
It's true.
with the law of attraction, you're opening up a portal to be harm myself or to put myself in harm's way. It's evident that things could happen to you, and we all know it, so how do you said? No, so don't say it. Just support it.
Yep.
Like, I'm part of the word now. Like, I don't want to, I used to say it all the time. It's a common phrase that a lot of people use when they do crime and stuff like that. They always say, I'm not going back to jail. So you just open the portal and go back.
Yeah.
And the things you can say that if you're trying not to go back, it's like, I'm not going to do the things that led me. I'm not going back to jail, just letting you go back. So you have to switch up the things that made you.
Yeah.
Put in that position.
And that's the anxiety. You know, anxiety is praying for the things that you don't want.
Yeah, exactly. But then you're still giving power to that deity, that energy. So it's like you're feeling that, yes. Yeah. You know?
You say word, power, sound.
Yes.
And when you're not speaking it and thinking it's negative.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you're creating these thoughts in that energy.
So you don't talk about what you don't want, you talk about what you do.
Also, I add that what also happens is that a lot of people they put forward a lot of negative energy. I realize movement is also divine. It's not just national. It's not just people it's only love. It's about knowing that the ancestor you are, what the ancestors were. Even today, we don't have our ancestors.
When you say divine, like that spiritual aspect.
Yeah, spiritual aspect of it. Like, say, for instance, if you are showing somebody showing hate towards you or negative energy towards you, it's probably has nothing to do with you. It's them, it's their stuff, it's their demons that they're dealing with. And it's just a reflection of what they really are, that they don't really love themselves, or they don't really, they have hate. It's their hate towards themselves, not really towards you. Sometimes you have to overstand stuff, and some people, it's very clear that yours. But they tell you on you, so you have to know how to defend that. I'm not going to feed into this energy because you're not really hating on me, you're really hating on yourself because that's the demon that you're fighting. You have to realize that certain negative things in your life, you have to take it as a learning tool, like even with law or anything like that. Don't look at that the love aspect, look at it as a part of it that's teaching you something to elevate you to the next relationship or the next situation that's like that, where you could just you're affected the same way because you know that. That's my last.
A meeting of the seen sages to make laws for the coming age of the nations of the earth. Now when the sages were refreshed, they opened up the book of life and read. They read the story of the life of man, of all his struggles, losses, gains, and in the light of past events and deeds, they saw what would be best for him in coming years. They knew the kind of law and precept suited to his estate. They saw the highest Allah ideal that the race could comprehend. Upon the 7 postulates, these sages were to formulate the law of life for the coming age that souls may rest. Now Mansti was the oldest sage. He took the chair of chief and said, man is not far enough advanced to live by faith. He cannot comprehend the things his eyes see not. He yet is child, and during all the coming age must be taught by pictures, symbols, rites, and forms. His God must be a human God. He cannot see Allah by faith, and he cannot rule himself. The king must rule, the man must serve. The age that follows this will be the age of man, the age of faith. In that blessed age, the human race will see without the aid of carnal eyes, will hear the soundless sound, will know the spirit Allah. The age we enter is the preparation age, and all the schools must be designed in a way that men may comprehend. And man cannot originate. He builds by patterns that he can see. So in this council, we must carve out patterns for the coming age, and we must formulate the gnosis of the empire of the soul, which rests on 7. Each sage in turn shall form a postulate, and these shall be the basis of the creeds of men until the perfect age shall come. Then Mensti wrote the first. All things are thought. All life is thought. The multitudes of beings are but phrases of one of the great thoughts made manifest. Lo, Allah is thought, and thought is Allah. Then Vidyapati wrote the second postulate. Eternal thought is one. In essence, it is two, intelligence and force. And when they breathe, a child is born. This child is love. And thus the triune Allah stands forth, whom men call Father, Mother, Son. This triune Allah is one, but like the one of light, in essence, he is seven. And when the triune Allah breathes forth, seen spirits stand before his face. These are creative attributes. Men call them lesser gods, and in their image they made men. And Casper wrote the third. Man was a thought of Allah formed in the spirit of Sepanik, clothed in the substance of soul, and his desires were strong. He sought to manifest on every plane of life, and for himself he made a body of the ethers, of the earthly forms, and so he descended to the plane of earth. In his descent, he lost his birthright, lost his harmony with Allah, made discordant all the notes of life. In harmony and evil are the same. So evil in the handwork of man. Ashbina wrote the fourth. Seeds do not germinate in light. They do not grow until they find the soil and hide themselves away from light. Man was evolved a seed of everlasting life. But in the ethers of the triune Allah, the light was too far great for seeds to grow. And so man sought the soil of carnal life. And in the darksomeness of earth, he found a place where he could germinate and grow. The seed has taken root and grown full well. The tree of life is rising from the soil of earthly things, and under natural law is reaching up to perfect form. There is no supernatural acts of Allah to lift a man from carnal life, to blind to spirit blessedness. He grows as grows the plant, and in due time is perfected. The quality of soul that make it possible for man to rise to spirit life is purity. So we can just talk about the postulates, and we'll just go through those. Mensti wrote the first. All things are thought, all life is thought activity. The multitudes of beings are but phases of one great thought made manifest. Lo, Allah is thought, and thought is Allah. That's probably another one that kind of speaks for itself.
I think
And we've also made reference to earlier. Vidyapati wrote the second postulate. Eternal thought is one. In essence, it is two, intelligence and force. And when they breathe, a child is born. This child is love. And thus the triune Allah stands forth, whom men call Father, Mother, Son. This triune is one, but like the one of light, in essence, he is seven. And when the triune Allah breathes forth, seen spirits stand before his face. These are creative attributes. Men call them lesser gods, and in their image they made man. One thing is the mystery being taken away about them admitting the truth about the triune being Father, Mother, Son, not Father, Holy Ghost, and all that stuff. This triune Allah is one, but like the one of light, in essence, he is seven. And when the triune Allah breathes forth, seen spirits stand before his face. These are the creative attributes, which again is the Elohim again. Men call them lesser gods, and in their image they made man. And Casper wrote, man was a thought of Allah formed in the image of the septenate, clothed in the substance of soul, and his desires were strong. He sought to manifest on every plane of life, and for himself he made a body of the ethers of the earthly forms, and so he descended to the plane of earth. In his descent, he lost his birthright, lost his harmony with Allah, made discordant all the notes of life. Inharmony and evil are the same. So evil is the handwork of man.
I don't understand that. Being in harmony and evil is the same.
In harmony, I guess it's saying.
Yeah, like disharmony, yeah. Disharmony and evil, yeah. Disharmony and evil is the same.
So when prophets are saying you lost the states is what he's talking about.
Right.
You lost the birthright. Right?
Yeah.
Get back the birthright.
Right, falling, the descent from higher self to lower self. So the only way to regain your birthright is to be one with Allah, which is again the idea of recognizing that this is not a flash a card thing.
Right. It's like rebirthing yourself in harmony.
Yeah,
with what's going on.
with what you should be in harmony with, right? Because once you find that place that you're in harmony with, that's the soil that you're gonna grow from. You know, because it's only natural, right? Things are gonna grow in good soil. That's just what it is. It has nothing to do with opinion or what people's perspective of something. That's just what it is. I mean, you know.
Earlier in that passage, does it talk about things growing from dirt? Was that sentence?
Good seeds germinating.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool image because when we think about making things grow, we're always thinking about the water and the light. But firstly, it's the foundation, it's the soil. So it's just kind of very, I don't know, it sounds like it's very encouraging for anyone who feels like they don't have enough light. You know, that there's still, that might just be where you need to be to aid you. Exactly.
Yep. That was the next postulate. Ashbina wrote the fourth. Seeds do not germinate in light. They do not grow until they find the soil and hide themselves away from the light. Man has evolved a seed of everlasting life, but the ethers of the triune Allah, the light, was far too great for seeds to grow. And so man sought the soil of carnal life, and in the darksomeness of earth, he found a place where he could germinate and grow. The seed also taken root and grown fully well. The tree of life is rising from the soil of earthly things, and under natural law is reaching up to perfect form. There are no supernatural acts of Allah to lift a man from carnal life to spirit blessedness. He grows as grows the plant, and in due time is perfected. The quality of soul that makes it possible for man to rise to spirit life is purity. So that's going into even the pure intentions of the being. That if purity is what the soul is made up of in the being, then the possibility for man to rise is limitless. Because the soil is prepped for that type of growth. The manifest is already there, what this tree could be based on the seed. Once you know what it is that's planted, you know what the outcome is going to be. But as soon as you're planting with what you don't know, then the expectation might not really manifest because you didn't even plan what it is that you're expecting to get out. And again, in the darksomeness of earth, he found a place where he could germinate and grow. Again, going back to meditation and going within into the darkness. When you go within into the darkness, then you're able to grow. You're able to push out of the dirt. You find your light in darkness. You know, the seed being in the darkness is the seed meditating. Well, about 10 minutes, we just wanted to open up the floor. If anybody had any questions, so we could deal with that.
Is that same point you're just making, is that relative to Yahshua and his teaching among the thieves and courtesans? Is that sort of the same type of rationale, that darkness? That
Right, yeah.
When you're among people who are not necessarily the greatest,
who are not the greatest people.
then you're teaching there, but you're in the darkness.
Yeah. Because you know, in that aspect, he's bringing the light into the darkness. And it's either all this stuff is going to scatter or whatever, or like the bugs or whatever, they're going to go toward the light. They might not like the burn or whatever that they get, but the light is there for those who want it. Any questions? We'll bring those forth. There's no questions too small or too big.
You know, I think if maybe more people in other faiths read some of this, especially where we're talking about the sages, they're coming from all the various countries, all different nations coming together.
Yeah.
You know, that would maybe assist everybody else to recognize that really,
you need that unity. It's one thing. One thing.
It just doesn't happen up there, right? Everybody's stuck. We got different kind of church here, different kind of church there. And some churches around the black 5%.
They're all different branches, but we went down the truth. I fully hear what you're saying.
But the second thing is that they'll we go to first church and that's how you always is the truth.
Right.
Nobody else is, you know what I mean? And you ever notice, anytime you see a church on one corner, you see one almost on one of the adjacent corners. It's almost like there's a competition. Put your church down the street. I don't have to have it right next door to mine.
Let's just see what's going on here.
But it's all over the city. It's everywhere in the world. You'll see one church. Now instead of them collaborating, you know what I mean? Everybody's trying to make like they're the Don or whatever.
Yeah. The Don, especially around here, yeah.
I guess there's like a foundation type of congregation.
Mm-hmm.
Our new pastor, like in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So, like half of them
Everybody left. Because
they're at the campus every Sunday
doing their church thing there. Opposed to, yeah.
Gone to the Catholic church to do their Pentecostal service.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's all, whether it's the church, whether it's the state, it don't make no difference. It's all about dividing power. Right? Like, well, we're all on the same path, and after all these lessons we listen to today, and we see all the similarities, so they see how everything is connected. But they want to tell you something different. You know? It's a bunch of competition.
So that's their job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Our job is to educate each other.
Yes.
And see where the traps are and see where the lack of knowledge is, so that you can help educate them. Because that's really all it is. You come here today, my first time here on a Sunday, and I stopped going to Sunday school as a young man to go work on the Sundays and make money. And then I realized I'm asking people in my Sunday class stuff, and they're not giving me a direct answer. It was always a runaround, and I'm being as direct as I can to understand what's going on. And my thoughts are all over the place, but just coming and being able to sit amongst people that actually reflect and reason about the pieces that were missed, it literally just helps give a very solid foundation. And I'll be able to go home this week and still study, but look even more forward to coming next week, because it's like there's just being here is where you get the gaps filled. I could watch videos for the whole week since I've seen the last time I watched videos. It won't add up to me actually coming here and being in the space with all of you guys and living the knowledge, right? Like taking it on the computer, it's just, I can't speak. You know what I mean? And I can't be there on the chat trying to talk to Cujo, then you have to come, right? And you have to try to come as much as humanly possible, because that's where it's going to trigger. It's going to trigger something in you to speak, right? And then as you speak, another person's thinking, and then they're going to speak, and this is literally how we pull that thread.
Yeah, through each other.
Right?
Yeah.
Through it and knit something with it. Because at the end of the day, there's so many people out there that are distracted, and it's just because they're just distracted. Get them just to be in one place for a couple hours, and it will stay, right? So I appreciate all you guys, and that's why I came today.
There's love. No more. You gotta come? Oh.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with you, brother, to that extent, from your perspective, which I think is absolutely important, but I think the greater part to this is, we talked about this last night, I working film and I was over in Mennonite country. And when they have anything to do, they all come together. They do it, they don't go outside of the community for that. So to me, the part that was still missing, I think, which is what all, and then I was also talking with another European who was talking about bikers, who wrote with bikers. He was telling me about a situation where he was in a bar, and one of the bikers one of his girls was trying to hit on him. And the biker boyfriend, and the two biker groupies came and grabbed the guy and said, leave him alone. He's not doing anything to your girl. You go deal with your own problem. Which to me, what I realized is they've got all the sciences that we need to have. And then they've replaced it with the dogma, right? And then to Mocha's comment with the church and stuff, I think they're just using different slices, whatever you like. You might like oranges, you might like apples, but they really only give you only dogma. They're not giving you the real stuff. So I think we are coming together. That is the coming together. Going to the church, which is the gathering, is correct. Is what are you getting at the church? That's the other side. The fact of the Mennonite, I think that's the one thing that we're missing, or that's the next step that we really have to do, which is really coming together and loving each other. We pass our brothers every day on the street. A lot of times, they're me mugging you. How many times you pass by a brother and you wondering, did I do something to you? Do I know you from someone's place? Why are you looking at me like that? You know what I mean? Well, most of the time, I try to get my hair up. You know, and a lot of the brothers that are aware will give you that hair back. That was the key to it back in the day when we used to give the hail up. Yeah. That was where we were at. That was the beginning of stuff. Yeah. That was our stuff. But then it became, I see it passing from the handshake to the fist pump. Yeah. Right? The handshake used to be that unity. Yeah. Now it's just. Yeah, but also it's just this thing, right? Yeah. We're bumping. Yeah. We're not connecting. That thing. When I saw that thing was when you touch the two fleshes together, you were actually passing. Yeah, when you press palms, yeah. No, you were passing the energy. Yeah. So those are the things that we have to start turning back to. And that's what I think we're missing. The clubs that used to be about love, and now it's about not getting shot. Yeah. We're not stepping on someone's foot. We're not looking at someone's girl. Yeah. So that's the next level of it, which I think I'm hoping that we are looking to. That we are really initiating. Yeah. Any other questions or thoughts?
I'm going to make thinking about what the was talking about, what Omar was saying earlier about he said like it resonates better with him when he's here, and that part is needed. Omar said earlier on that the movement or the nation or the work is really out there, but there's some of us who don't come here at all. You might be doing a little, but when you're in that environment, like you're on like minds and stuff like that, tends to motivate you, inspire you, or activate your energy. So constantly us being each other's presence keeps building that energy and keeps us on that path. Yeah. Like many of those who might be still Moors and have not given up their nationality, but there's no real activity because they're consuming whatever they're doing out there every day. And this is not really part of that day or that week or that month or whatnot. So it's like out of sight, out of mind type of thing. So when we're here, yeah, the work has to be done out there, but this being here is what kind of activates us to do the work.
The whole question was that I think you're absolutely right, but I see this more as a recharging.
Yes.
We're coming in here and recharging. So,
Yeah.
Yes, so yeah, exactly. For the ones who have already been activated.
Yeah.
Recharge.
Yeah. Yeah, but
and then I was some of the other stuff I was saying back to the readings of stuff, but when you were talking about the 7 sages are really the 7 Elohim in the flesh.
yes.
And when I was watching I'll have to get you guys the link, but one of the Euros, my healer that I'm going to give you the link, he was talking about each one of those healers, the Pheno, Apollo, each one of those were prophets, sort of prophets in the flesh. Mm-hmm. And if you go study, you'll find their works.
Yeah.
Go and look those guys
those
up
individuals,
and what they talked about. Yeah. So to me, each one of those, I remember there were 7 of them. But those 7 reflected the 7 days. Yeah. And then Sunday, which we think is the end of the week, really is the beginning of the week. If you look at any calendar, most of them start on Sunday. That was the beginning of the week. Friday and Saturday were supposed to be your days of rest, but they make Friday your party day. And if you know the true European Jew, he doesn't work on Saturday. There are certain Jews that are so rich, they got guys doing pushing elevator buttons. That's how much the Sabbath. So really, we're out of harmony because we're partying on the Friday. We're working first of all on the Friday, which we shouldn't be doing, and then we're partying on the Friday night, which we shouldn't be doing, and then Saturday we're partying, and then the Sunday, which should be the day at the beginning of the week. That's where the church, the Europeans, came and took our energy, and so we gave that beginning of the week energy was in the church. Right. This should really be now. We explode off until Thursday, then we rest Friday, Saturday, and come back again. Right. But they just altered it just that enough. Because remember this, most of us used to get paid on Thursday. Yeah, I still get paid on Thursday. But now they changed that to the Friday. And that was some of that stuff to continue sort of mixing up the energy pattern.
Takes us out of harmony.
That's right. Absolutely evil. Absolutely. I've seen the Kuta before. It's nothing overt. It's subtle. When we're talking about before, we thought about it. So here, you see the emphasis. To me, I look at it here. They turned out the emphasis here. Everyone's in skirts and whatever. That was sort of causing that sort of sexual energy to be exploited. Whereas in the East, they got them all covered up. But really, over here, we should have been much more tight and much more focused. Right. So what they've done is they've thrown off the balance. Here, where we should have been very focused, we've got very loose. Over there, where they should probably be looser, a little bit loose there. Tight. Super tight. That's what they're playing with. So, for example, even like the marijuana, which was something like remember, you were on the street with a joint, you go to jail. Nowadays they don't charge you for it. So it's that playing of that, and that's because the era has changed. It's the era of truth now. So now we're going to throw you everything. And so it's like we're going to give you a feast. When before they were starving you. So what it is, it's really throwing you out of balance. It's really about balance. And that's where the Libra of the scales work. You don't being balanced. We've got us all out of balance.
Sis, any questions? Or the brothers, any comments?
I have a statement to make.
Sure.
It's my first time here.
Islam?
And it's the first time I actually am around conversations that has my mind, my heart, like feeling. It's the first time. And I can't even say what. Like usually I have it in a one-on-one basis, but it's everybody's got it. So I'm just sitting here like tears.
Yeah.
Right?
So we'll see you next week.
Yes.
Oh, maybe we could, if the women who've been here want to impart some words of encouragement on the sister, or
And then possibly also
you know,
fill her in on the women's auxiliary and the rest of it and all that stuff that we're.
So we're gonna tweet the email
We can do that.
and we'll let you know how things are happening, definitely.
Well,
And what I can help with.
Yes, of course, of course. I'm so glad you came, ladies.
Me too. Me too.
Well, it's important for for there to be, like Omar was talking about balance. There's gotta be a balance between the masculine and female, the feminine energy. You know, there has to be. There's no movement that ever succeed where there's only one or the other. I mean, people want to throw things like feminism. Feminism was never for us to begin with. You know what I mean? And that's part of the sorcery too. Yeah, that's what they did back in the 60s and the 70s to get women to where they are now thinking a certain way. You know?
Well, I think it is the money. Because in those times, you only have men working, and you're not making as much as if you have two people in your household working. Because then as well, you have somebody watch their children. And like, it's just, that's the way I look at it.
Well, that was all
Sorry,
delivered.
sorry, can you say that again? I just want to know what did you say?
Well, like
You had a thought.
like in the 60s, they mostly have men working, so they're only able to get one income, but they're able to get one income. Whereas if you have two parents working, two-parent household working, then you have double the income, but then you also have somebody watching their children, which is the more income going out for them and it's just
Well, sorry, I don't want to differ from that, because we look back, I think we saw some of this, what I think happened, and I remember one of the people who got me, was in regards to the fact that to have both parents working, they destroyed, remember, you're the empress, you are it, you're everything. So back in the day, Granny used to be, I wasn't around at the time when I still had grandmother, would be at home, the stability. So to me, I think about it a different way. Back in the 60s, one man could definitely be enough to feed the family. And what they did was they destroyed the family by taking you out of it. So then you're not there to watch your children, someone else is. So think about how toxic that, from my perspective, that's toxicity. So I see this being detrimental, because ultimately, woman who runs the show needs to be at home running her empire.
Well, that's why they put her in a position that she would have to be a job.
But that's
Have to have
what
a job.
she's right at the same time as economics is energy, right? So if they have both energies now in the last race, like she said, all they care about, you know this, is money. Which money is the energy, something you got. So two parents are busy now, working and getting taxed. You have to give up your child, and then to educate your child. No, but she said that she thought that was a good thing. No,
I'm saying that's what it is.
That's just what it is.
She's an outsider. That's why I'm saying that she's right. It's for monetary gain. They're pumping money into the system.
And it happened way before that. In their wars, they killed off a lot of their young men, and because of this, they started to hire their women in different things like this. And if you go even before that, when they're going around the world and killing people just in contact, not even all of the atrocities that they put on people, it's a cycle that needs to be broken for sure. And it's one that is only going to start to break once a lot of things that are normal in society get questioned and get debunked, and we build it back up fresh to what it's supposed to be.
As normal as necessary. Everybody's killing one another to what's going on. You don't normalize that. The violence, oh, this is the norm now. Yes, it's a problem, but it's normal. We only hit 52 this year.
Yeah.
Great number.
Yeah, opposed to last year, 53. Yeah. Any more questions, comments? So next Saturday, we have our first annual Women's Appreciation Dinner. Right? That's pretty much been finalized. We're just getting the helpers thing figured out. We're just looking at maybe 7 males to assist. Right now we have Brother Omar, myself, Brother Yasun, Brother Kobana.
So we need 3 more.
So we're looking at 3 more.
So say 1, that's 5, 6. It's here. And we need 1 more.
Yeah, it's gonna be here. And it's
just for he's making that.
Yeah, members.
No, I'm saying he's looking for volunteers, but it's not going to be open. It's really just open for the Women's Auxiliary. This was something that Moorish Culture Club came up with to sort of have the emphasis have a day for themselves. So that's why it's being held on a Saturday, so that they've got an event that we're doing earlier, and then we have our caterers coming in to give them a meal. Those are the ones that are involved in the Women's Auxiliary. So that's what happens. So the meals happen for Sunday. We're just letting you know that this is where these things are going. We're sort of planting the seeds, and then next year the women's auxiliary will hopefully be taking the reins on that. So we're just looking, I think, for 1 more masculine energy to. It's on Sunday that the other.
Yeah, and then no class on Sunday, but we're gonna be vending at the hair show, the natural hair show, which is at 5 Garamond Court, which is the Japanese Canadian Cultural Center.
Winford and Don Mills.
Winford and Don Mills.
One block north of. 1 block north of Don Mills. Don Mills and then you go to the but the street only goes east from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Winford starts at Don Mills. Or East on Winford.
East on Winford, Japanese Cultural Center.
Come out of Winford DPP, to the right, make a right, and then make a right.
Garamond.
Garamond?
Is it off Gar? Or is there 1 more turn? There's 1 more turn, right?
Not there.
It's the Japanese Canadian Cultural Center. I was checking on the internet, it's right there off that. It's that 1 street.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
one
we've
north of Eglinton, and Don Mills off the east. And then another reminder to all of us, we're taking the show on the road, going to Montreal, October 12th to 14th. We'll have an address for that. All are welcome. You sort of have to make your way down there.
Well, whether you do because there's been years where we drove down just on the day and then came back in the night or whatever.
That was Montreal, that was Ottawa.
Yeah, well, yeah, but going out that way, you know what I mean? So we've the last time that we went there, we said that we're gonna actually stay over there instead of doing the rush back. A lot of dynamics with setting up places for people to stay and all that stuff. So that's pretty much just on people. If they want to go out there and stay, then make whatever arrangements you're gonna make. Whether you're gonna get a rental, use your car or whatever. Or you have family out there, you want to stay out there for 2 days or whatever. But
part of the problem is when we try to do that, we set up a lot of stuff, and then things happen in people's lives. And then what happened was, let's say we had someone who was supposed to be taking 3 or 4 other people, and then if they had a problem, and then our friend Liliana can speak to that. She was supposed to be going, and then her ride ended up not being able to go, so then she wasn't able to go. And that, to me, is not fair or right. So what we realized is that's some of the stuff we're talking about, the building of us into that state. Because I said to people now, it's like, now I've been in this for years. Sunday's this day. Instead of going to church, I'm coming here. See what I'm saying? Instead of watching football, I'm coming here. I can make that. Sometimes that doesn't happen with other people. So we've tried to, until people get to that level, you can't it's been hard for us because then other people get let down. Because we're sort of trying to micromanage, okay, here's your lift, you get in here, whatever, and then all of a sudden that person can't go. And then you got people sitting on the side of the road basically, not able to go.
So the habit is formed, the responsibility.
Well, yes, and that's part of the growth period. So what happens is, see you and you're more next to you, you might go, hey, let's go. And then you guys arrange a hotel, you get a car, whatever. Then once you can jump on the caravan, we're just not going to be doing that right now until we see. And that even happens on smaller venues, just going to like, let's say we went to Fort Erie one year. We can go into there. So, but it's a good one. Last year we ended up going to the observatory, which had a lot, because remember the Europeans have all of the science in the churches. In Montreal is the thing I want to do this year is I want to go to the cathedral, Notre Dame. And they said, if you guys know this, they said anytime a Moor goes into a church, it stops being a church and becomes a temple. So there you go. So that's our plan for this year. We're planning to leave. So just to give you the heads up, some of us already have taken our Friday off. You see what I'm saying? 6 weeks in advance, taking our Friday off. Sorry, I'm not going to work. We're going to leave at 9:30, 10, get done at 2 o'clock. And then we're going to enjoy the day, however that is, we'll eat, whatever, settle in. Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, more down there, through our work, has been able to get the space rented on his Aboriginal and Indigenous, just on the strength of him being a national, and they've given him the place for free. After we sent him the declaration that John Tory sent us on the fact that we're Indigenous, here's your acknowledgement of that. So we sent him that, he was able to go to that spot and get it for free. So if you're noticing, we're starting to see certain energies happening. So our energy here is now affecting him there. So that's what also was told to us. We've got to take this to the hedges and the highway. So we're going down there Saturday, 1 to 6. And then hopefully we'll have a nice evening.
Then after that, we have an evening, and then
you can do whatever you want, whatever, and then jump on and head home, or you know what I mean? Do whatever you. Like Mocha last year, she has family there. She's planning to go down this, right?
And this is the weekend of October 12th.
12th.
Yes, 12th.
So a flyer will be being generated in the next week. You'll get that if you got on the email list, and it's a go. It's done, and it's happening. So.
No, so again, we won't be here next week Sunday. Following Sunday, we'll be here. But if you are interested in something to do, the natural hair show, bring some finance, because the people usually have some good products.
I think it's probably there'll probably be
food. There'll probably be a door thing. I think it's 20 or 25, something like that.
The previous years, he's actually had lectures there. This year, he's not doing that. They used to have rooms that they rent out for people to speak. So that was similar. This year, that's not happening. So to the level of really, unfortunately, there's not been last couple of years he's been there, and he's actually been in a room speaking on something. This year, that won't be happening. So just to give you the heads up on that, it's really just going to be about a lot of the sisters, and there will be other presentations going on in the main room, or maybe
they have
usually have something going on in the
workshops and stuff like that. Yeah, have people doing hair, have people speaking, performances.
We're sending a booth. Remember, previous years has actually gone into one of the rooms and spoke.
Yeah, they're not having workshops on this year.
Yeah, he can speak. Yeah, he can speak at the booth, but sorry, it's just not going to be that kind of environment where you're going to be in a classroom, or whatever. It's going to be like sort of like an open vending
marketplace, whatever.
Like an expo. Right. Well, very good. So
what time is the what time does it start? What time does it
it starts
around
it starts around noon. Vendors are there from 10 a.m. or something. But the actual thing starts, it goes till about 6. Huh?
It's only 1 day this year.
Yeah.
Last year it was 2 days, this year it's going to be 1 day. And then upward and onward, how I've been, and Hope and I have, the creator has given us the energy to create a Moorish Culture Club, which is trying to do these events, trying to get us together. This is the step that I've seen which is next. So that on Sunday, rather than going to the European Club, I'm hanging out with my brother. Or just at home studying, whatever. So this is what we've been trying to do. This is what these trips are about. We've been to Ottawa twice. We've got the pictures will come up. We went to the Sarah, you were there, right? We went to the right. Anyway, so that's where we're at.
Was
So
it?
we're looking to do more events. So when we get back after the school in October, we can start looking for other things to do.
Yeah. I don't know if this is really ready to bring up, but I myself, I do teach martial arts. So, I mean, if there's anybody that's interested, I mean, I'd be more than willing to come in and volunteer some of my time for anybody.
We got masks downstairs.
I mean, if you guys are-
So what we can do is we can discuss how we can sort of go over, we just moved in here. Part of our issue is just sort of being concerned about certain physicality things in terms of, you know, how is that gonna work in a space like this? Damages, you know, just.
Absolutely, yeah.
So-
I'm just making the offer.
No,
If you're interested in discussing more of it.
Those type of tracks will happen, whether it's upstairs or downstairs, they are gonna happen, but it's just the time, right? I'm trying to set up the base model set up. First, and definitely.
Or maybe possibly too, maybe the venue for that kind of thing, if it gets big enough, may not be here. Absolutely.
Well, just, well, if we're doing it here, it's just goes by limited space, and availability, we do multiple classes, limited space.
It's not-
No, so it's pretty much like any other place you probably have to go to. It's almost gonna have to talk to yeah. But this space is even a little bigger than the one we have up on Hamilton, and we're doing martial arts classes today.
Durrell, you ready, Durrell? Almost ready. You finished my game.
Allah for the universe.
Allah for the universe.
Father of love.
Truth.
Peace.
Freedom.
Justice.
Justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My light.
My light.
My salvation.
My salvation.
My night.
My night.
My day.
My day.
With my prophet.
With the Holy Prophet.
Noble Rally.
Islam.
Thanks, Durrell. Good job. I like your shirt too, buddy. You like yours too?
Hey, Corona. Corona, we got a chance.
Huh? Yeah. Just put the lights on. Oh, and when you go inside, the walls. Durrell, watch yourself over there. Huh?
I'm gonna come find you in 5.
Huh?
I'm gonna come find you in 5. Not so good after all. No.